most people think if here's my income, and then they look at the tax rate, if $1 falls in that marginal tax rate, then everything is taxed at that rate. It's not true. We got Dale from Atlanta writes in. He goes, hello, I've been listening to your retirement spitball scenarios, and I'm learning a lot from them. I have a question about how to figure out what I need in retirement when I factor in taxes. I'm 55, single, will retire in 7 years. I have a pension of $30,000 per year. We'll take Social Security at age 62 at another, call it $30,000. And I'll have around $1.2 million in traditional IRAs at age 62 and $500K in a Roth. I have estimated that I will need $75,000 per year in retirement. I will have a paid off mortgage by then. However, I will need this amount, $6,250 per month after taxes. If I assume I'll likely be in the 22 or 24% tax bracket by then, how do you figure this out? I hear many people say they will likely need around $70,000 per year in retirement. So these are his buddies that need $70,000 per year?
Yeah, well, maybe that's examples from the show.
Okay. Then they subtract what they get with their Social Security and pension. Okay, so he wants to spend $70,000.
Right.
He takes the Social Security
to figure out the shortfall.
Pension.
Yep.
Then they take that amount left that is needed.
Sure.
I think that means from the portfolio.
Yes, and then you mentioned to divide into 4% to see how much you'll need in retirement to arrive at this amount. But how do taxes factor into this? Do I really need $95,000 a year to reach my $75,000 amount after taxes? Thanks so much. You guys are the best podcast out there. All right, now I get Dale. Sorry.
Yeah, you're there.
He was talking about us guys.
I think so.
Yeah. All right. So what he's trying to figure out is how much money that he needs, but he needs to figure out the tax calculation.
Right.
Because he's going to get in the weeds here.
He is. Yep.
So the 4% rule is a high level rule.
It's not the gospel.
It's not nowhere close.
It just tells you approximately how much you need to save.
Right. It's a really good guide for, let's say you want to retire. Dale wants to retire in 10 years. Right. And he's thinking, man, I want to spend this $75,000, but what is that adjusted for inflation? Maybe that's $100,000.
Sure.
And he's got $50,000 or $60,000 of Social Security and pension. So you take $100,000 minus 60, you're left with 40. You multiply that by 25 or divide it by 4, you're going to come up with a certain number. So you need $1 million. But that's not including really anything. I mean, that's just to see, all right, hey.
Am I in the ballpark?
Am I in the ballpark?
Yeah, right.
Well, I have $1 million. If you have 200,000, you're way off base. So you have to kind of adjust your assumptions or your savings rate or your retirement date and so on.
Right. Yeah, I think that's a good way to say it. And anyway, to figure out your taxes, I mean, you can work backwards, come up with an amount, figure out the tax rate, get TurboTax, but that's a lot of work. To me, here's the quick and dirty way to do it, is you figure out your approximately your tax rate. And this is just approximate if you don't want to do it the most correct way, which is to do tax projections. But let's just say you said you want to spend $75,000, you're single, the top of the 10% bracket is a little over, or 12% bracket is a little over 40,000. We'll call it 40, right? And let's say you want to spend 80. Super easy math, right? So you need 80,000 net. So your tax rate is going to probably be roughly half in the 12%, half in the 22, right? That's, it's a little bit more, but you get the idea. So then that's that. If you split that, that's 16%. We'll call it 15. Super easy math, right? Okay, 15% tax. Now what do? Well, you take that $80,000 and you divide it by the reciprocal. Now I'm not going to lose people. I know.
I thought you said quick and dirty.
Well, it is quick and dirty if you follow the math. If you paid attention in junior high. Anyway, you take 100% minus 15%, you get 85%. You take that 80,000 divided by 0.85. That's going to tell you how much you have to have, right, to be able to pay the taxes. Or you can just keep doing it backwards. Do it 90,000, take 15% tax. Is that the right answer? No. Do it 92,000, whatever, right? Doesn't, but that's the quick way for those that followed me. For all the rest of you, just trial and error, right? It's roughly in this particular case, let's just call it 15%. It could be 20. You got to add in state taxes. I'm way oversimplifying this, right? So if you want to just do a back of the envelope, that will give you roughly how much you need to draw to come up with that net number.
So let me go two other ways here.
Okay.
So the 4% rule that came about by Bill Bengen from here in San Diego.
Yeah, that was what, the 80s?
Yeah, 70s.
70s?
Who knows? It's probably the 3% rule today. But what the assumption is that, all right, if you get 6%, 4% is what you're spending, 2% is for inflation and taxes.
Right.
So it's kind of already built in there on a very high level.
That's the idea.
That's the idea, right? So you can look at it like that, or you could say 4% plus tax plus a cost of living, right? So that's what that's how we look at it. If we're just really simplifying things, is that here's your shortfall. You're short 40,000 plus tax on that, plus the cost of living, because you can control your taxes in retirement. Al, did you know that you can control your taxes more in retirement than any other time in your life?
I think I've said that.
Yes, you have.
I think I had a CTA once on that.
But I mean, it's true. That's why we harp on all of this stuff, because the tax rates could be zero, even though you're spending $70,000, $80,000, $90,000 a year, right? Where's the money coming from? Is it coming from a non-qualified account? Is it coming from a Roth account, or is it all coming from a retirement account? How's your Social Security going to be taxed? What's your provisional income? How all of this kind of plays together is what's going to determine your tax rate. So even though your income is $70,000, doesn't necessarily mean that you're in the 22 or 24% tax rate. That might be the last dollar that gets taxed at that rate, because you got to take that minus the standard deduction. Then some of it's going to be taxed at 12, some of it's going to be taxed at 22, and so on. So most people think if here's my income, and then they look at the tax rate, if $1 falls in that marginal tax rate, then everything is taxed at that rate. It's not true. Like Al was just trying to give you the effective rate and then go backwards, and then use the reciprocal to figure out the reciprocal of the tax.
Yeah, which is for those engineers.
Yes, for those people that went to elementary school, we should all know this.
Anyway, but that's a really good point, which is people assume if you're in the 22% bracket, I'm going to need $20,000 to cover the tax. No, you got the 10% rate, you got the 12% rate, you got a little bit in the 22, and it's not as much as you think because of the standard deduction, which is over 12,000, right? So if you want to do this right, get TurboTax figured out. But if you want to back of the envelope, just realize that you're in the 22% bracket. Right. That's your effective rate is a lot less. That's your marginal rate, which simply means if you make another dollar, you'll pay tax at 22%, but your effective rate, which is the blended rates, which is something much smaller.
Are you prepared for retirement? Schedule a free financial assessment with an experienced financial professional right online at purefinancial.com.